Now please welcome Professor Sarah McHugh from Georgetown University, who will moderate the next session, Expanding Digital Trade.
If the panel could please join me, that would be wonderful. Very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the last session on the first day of the 17th Annual World Export Development Forum. Today we discuss making trade work for all through policy, programs, infrastructure, connectivity, skills, and tech innovation. The journey in taking an idea global, the importance and promise in establishing new regional trade routes, and we witnessed just now the passionate and brilliant entrepreneurs pitching their ideas to impact investors. Now we will close the day's session by focusing on the challenges, opportunities, and best practices in e-commerce. These are important issues to discuss for increasingly all forms of commerce, retail, B2B, B2C, and the global supply chain move online. Global online commerce is expected to double by the year 2020. In other words, in just 26 months, all the online commerce ever conducted is likely to increase twofold. Implications to micro, small, and medium-sized entrepreneurs, the global supply chain, transportation, delivery, and infrastructure are profound, especially in gaining access to the massive online marketplaces that have emerged in the past 10 years. To set the scene, we need to recognize a few important trends in global e-commerce. E-commerce accounts for 12% of international trade and is growing exponentially. Automation, robotics, artificial intelligence, on-demand autonomous vehicles, drone delivery, 3D printing, and a consolidation of the global supply chain have transformed e-commerce. These technologies have created hyper-efficiencies with unemployment rates predicted to soar due to massive disruptions to industry and markets. National and international retail chains are closing up to 75 to 100% of their physical stores, or declaring bankruptcy at an unprecedented pace. Many are pushing their way for lost market share by barging in and creating massive online footprints. The global supply chain is being disrupted, where a few players dominate marketing platforms, order placement, customer service, warehousing, distribution, transportation, delivery, and payment systems. In addition to these trends, ITC's recent survey of more than 2,000 SMEs in 111 countries can help us to understand the concrete issues the SMEs face in the digital economy. The survey found that 4 out of 5 SMEs trading only through e-commerce are managed by women. Many of them are foregoing participation in traditional online marketplaces, but creating niches with Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. Cash on delivery for online orders is popular in developing countries, but use of mobile money in Africa is gaining traction. While it is relatively easy to create online store presences, improving online visibility is the greater challenge for SMEs. The cost of logistics is nearly double in developing countries, attributed to high delivery costs, a limited choice of providers, and challenges in finding warehouses in the distribution and destination market. SMEs in this ITC survey also expressed concern regarding their lack of knowledge in selling online, access to e-payment solutions, and complying with platform requirements, while SMEs in more developed countries want to improve online visibility and finding warehouses abroad. Clearly, we must ensure ease of access to the global online supply chain and e-commerce opportunities for SMEs in developing countries. As global trade is increasingly conducted online, How do we leverage e-commerce technologies and platforms to ensure that they have a prominent and sizable share of online markets? What are some of the best practices and innovations happening in online marketplaces that present opportunities to make trade more inclusive, especially for MSMEs and women-owned businesses? These are the questions with which we are going to grapple in the next hour by hearing from Mr. Ilya Kretov, General Manager for Russia and Emerging Europe, eBay. Ms. Chedzia McKinnon, CEO and Designer, Aphrodisiac Worldwide. Mr. Barnabas Male, Business Development Advisor, EIT Digital. And Ms. Victoria Saue, Head of Legal and Compliance, e-Residency for the Government of Estonia. They will all present cases that address these challenges along with their innovative solutions. And so we will start with Chedzia. Established in 2008, Aphrodisiac Worldwide is a fashion brand based in Ghana, bringing Afro style to the African diasporas in London, New York, Trinidad, Brazil, and Paris. Chedzia, please tell us about your very rich experience in selling online and what you feel needs to be done to strengthen an SME's presence in online marketplaces.
Sure, thank you for having me. My company started with a compliment. It's as simple as that. I was wearing a jumpsuit that I designed using bespoke textiles that were sourced in Ghana. And I was stopped by a woman who came running up to me very hurriedly in the Atlanta airport and asked me where did I get that, and she wanted one. And from that conversation, I decided to mix the bespoke textiles with modern fashion, and a company was born. Very quickly, I realized the need to have an online presence. Initially, we were selling B2C, directly to our customers. Very quickly, I realized we needed an online presence. We set up our domain name, aphrodisiacworldwide.com, and we quickly, again, realized that we needed to expand into online marketplaces to have an additional impact and reach a larger customer base. So we started to sell on Etsy and other platforms such as Zuva.com. One of the challenges that we faced directly was logistics. How do we get our product from our warehouse directly to the consumer in an efficient and timely manner? And some of those solutions came through channels such as ShipBob, which is a new platform that allows SMEs to have access to distribution through, in a smaller scale. For a company like mine that was not prepared as of yet to have a larger distribution channel, that channel gave us the ability to start to ship our products throughout the international community and grow at a pace that was suitable for us. Platforms like Shopify also helped us. It gave us the ability to have a quality visual e-commerce platform to host our website, and it gave us tools to present that platform. Shipping tools, logistical tools, payment processes, they have a POS integration. So those are things that are really critical to growing a small business from a home-based business to a company that is exporting throughout the world.
We've talked a couple of times, and it's so
Absolutely.
interesting to understand this as a case study that's going to unfold throughout the conversation. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ilya, ITC has a tight partnership with eBay. Can you please share what eBay is doing to boost the visibility of small businesses?
Yes, perfect. So first of all, thank you very much for having me here. That's a great privilege, and I think it's a very interesting discussion which we are having. So I prepared, took a brevity and prepared some kind of some slides for you, so you leave at least with some figures of why marketplaces are important for development and global trade. So let's first go into definition and to be on the same page, like what the marketplace is about. So, and whoever is clicking the slide, can you switch to the next slide, please? Okay, thank you. So marketplace is very simple. The role of marketplace is connect buyers on one end of the world with the sellers on the another end of the world, and since both of them don't know each other and basically not supposed to trust each other. Marketplace should provide trust. Yeah, that's in essence what marketplace does. Yeah, the rest of the things is just simplification of the process. eBay is basically like the truly global marketplace, and it connects buyers and sellers across the whole globe. Just to give you a bit of a flavor what it means, next slide please. eBay has at the moment around 170 million buyers who bought something over the last year on eBay. So if you compare this figure with the population in many countries, for example, across Eastern, Central, Southern Europe, that's much larger than like the whole population, given the fact that not all of them on internet, not all of them is shopping online. So basically it gives you easy access, or like to small and medium business gives easy access to the marketplace. To give also some feeling how it grows, and to connect what Sarah told before, some countries in this region of South and Central Eastern Europe are growing up to 90–20% year on year. And when I'm talking to my colleagues in retail or like more offline business, it's a dream job. Yeah, so it's like find another category which is growing double-digit for many years and will grow for like next 5 years at least at this double-digit pace. Going next. Why marketplace is important for SME growth? As I told, like first, it dramatically extends the user base, yeah, so the client base. The other thing is, if we look at the statistics and we compare eBay and the traditional export, we see that that businesses which are on marketplace, they're growing at least 3 times faster than the business, the exports of business who are not on the marketplace. So this is a comparison of eBay and traditional exports. And with the growing presence of online and with the whole technology behind it, yeah, which seems like very simple on the front end, but very sophisticated under the hood, yeah. It's actually, it will just grow and grow even faster. Next. When sellers are thinking about going into export, they think like, okay, maybe I will open another one country, I will trade with the neighbor countries and so on. When they start to go into the marketplace, they immediately open themselves into the multiple countries across the globe. So again, if we talk about South and Eastern Central Europe, the minimum amount of countries to which small and medium businesses trade, so where they have clients, is 25. Not small, right? And the average is around 30. For example, in Latvia, we had an award like a couple of weeks ago, yeah? So in Latvia, I have a seller who is selling to 143 countries. So just imagine the amount of countries around the globe, so he basically selling to like good half of them at least, yeah? Go next. And can you please click, yeah? So another one more. So what eBay is about? eBay is a truly inclusive marketplace. Can you click one more, please? eBay is truly inclusive marketplace. First, it's available for any kind of business. It's for micro business, which is the majority of the small medium enterprises, yeah, small medium businesses. For small businesses, we have a lot of family businesses who is earning 100% of their revenue on eBay, and for large business. So any kind of distributors can do that. The second thing is eBay is the marketplace which is truly global, which I think I already described, and which should be here in the middle. And the third, and this is at all not the least thing, is eBay is very diverse, inclusive community of buyers and sellers across different countries, different races, ages, genders, religions, and so on and so on. And like I think we will come back to this discussion, so I will be more like a trailer for the movie. If you will go just fast forward what examples we have in mind. So the next slide, we can talk, next one. We can talk, can you please switch to the next one? Another one? So it's a lot of animation here, yeah. So we can talk about women in business, yeah, and we have, this is one of multiple beautiful stories of the sellers, of the seller from Moscow in Russia. Next one. We can also talk about how eBay is actually helping businesses which are in disaster to start earning money again. And this is the story of L'Aquila, the city in Italy which had an earthquake in 2009. Going next one. We can talk about the countries which has not at the time like a very good favorable economic conditions and like a lot of unemployment, and where people with the help of marketplace keep doing what they love to do and earning from half to 100% of their revenue for them and for their families with the help of marketplace. And another one. And another example is the story of the smaller cities. This is Mönchengladbach in Germany with a population of roughly 280,000 inhabitants, and where eBay actually helped businesses to go widely and globally and start earning much more money. So basically, I'm like, despite like my title is General Manager for Russian Emerging Europe and basically and Africa. My role is to make small and medium businesses grow, yeah, and to make things happen. And that's what we can talk about today.
Incredibly inspiring opportunities for anyone, anywhere. Thank you very much. Victoria, as the head of risk and compliance for e-residency in Estonia, please share the country's innovative solution to the challenges that SMEs face in registering and selling in Europe. And what's in it for entrepreneurs, and how do you see government playing an even larger role in supporting SMEs?
Thank you, Sarah, and hello, everyone. I'm very honored to be here. Estonia's public and financial infrastructure is and has been fully digitized for 17 years. The key to access all the digital services is a digital identity and a smart card that every Estonian has. Because everything is digitized, it's very easy to scale it and open a platform to potentially everyone in the world. So almost 3 years ago, Estonian government decided to give this digital identity to anyone in the world who are interested in location-independent business. And that's how e-residency as a program was born. For e-residents, this government-issued identity becomes their key to access a global platform without the need to travel anywhere. So they can establish and manage an European company, and they can do it fully online with that key. They can access global banking services and payment solutions, and of course use private sector and all other government services with that key. And actually it's very easy to apply for e-residency. You just need to have online connection, it means internet connection. The application for e-residency and fulfilling it takes 15 minutes. You have to submit your copy of your passport and your picture, and you have to choose the pickup location. We have more than 40 Estonian embassies in the world, so it's quite easy to go and pick up your card. After submitting your application, Estonian police, who is actually the issuer of the digital identity, will do the background check. And if the answer is positive and the e-resident gets his or her e-residency card, Estonian embassy or the pickup location will notify the e-resident. So in the embassy or in the official representation office, e-resident has to present his or her passport and give biometrics. Fingerprints are required, and after that he or she gets e-residency card, a card reader, and PIN codes that are unique. And with PIN 1 You can authenticate yourself, and with PIN 2 you can sign all the documents electronically.
Wonderful. And in talking last night, it was so interesting that you said many countries contact Estonia and saying, we want to be just like you.
Yeah, definitely. We have more than 20 delegations per week visiting Estonia to see how it works actually.
Estonia has always been on the cutting edge of this, and so it's just so interesting to hear. Thank you.
Correct.
Thank you. Barnabas, EIT Digital brings innovative products and services to market, and in doing so partners with 130 European corporations, SMEs, startups, universities, and research institutes in Berlin, Eindhoven, Helsinki, London, Paris, Stockholm, Trenton, Budapest, and Madrid. What are some of your greatest success stories, and how can such programs be scaled to reach even more innovators?
Thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you, Sarah. I don't need to list the cities again, for which thank you. EIT Digital is an international innovation and education agency. The organization is quite complex, but suffice it to say that it has 3 different parts: research, education, and business. And I'm at the business part, so this is what I'm most equipped to talk about. But on the education part, we are very proud that we would like to have more and more engineers and students who are studying STEM classes to be proficient in business as well. So that's the main sort of mission of the education side. On the research side, we would like to have research that's viable on the market. And on the business side, we would like to partner with both corporates and large startup, scale-up kind of companies, which have been already successful in 1 or 2 national markets in Europe. And we would like to help them to expand their business into other European markets. So we are present at the 8 countries, actually 14 cities, so even more cities than you listed. And we have a hub in the US, in the Silicon Valley. And again, the basic idea is that we are partnering with scale-up companies that are already pretty successful. Success stories, the kinds of services that we provide are of at least 2, maybe 3 types on the business side. One is what we call access to market services. So we help companies with leads and hopefully deals in foreign countries, foreign to them. But we also provide access to finance services, which is fundraising from angel investors and VCs. And our working model is that we are charging a success fee for what we do. So we are partly financed by the EU, but we're moving towards a more market-oriented model whereby we're acting as really a promotion agency or a consultancy. We have a lot of successes with companies both on the fundraising side and on the access to market side. Some of them have to do with e-commerce, but I have to say that we have 5 focus areas. E-commerce is not one of them, but e-commerce is omnipresent in all of them, I suppose. These 5 areas are digital infrastructure, digital industry, digital well-being, digital cities, and digital finance, if I haven't repeated any. Okay. So some of the companies, for instance, that have something to do with e-commerce, and we help them, just to finish up this first round. For instance, there's a company called Kuri, which processes very small payments, so payments that are usually under the radar for larger players like PayPal and others. And the company has a very innovative solution of allowing different businesses to pay with airtime. So instead of paying with money, the currency that Kuri is working with is airtime in partnership with telcos. So in countries, for instance, where there are a lot of mobile phones, but there aren't too many bank accounts, it is very useful for businesses to be able to pay especially smaller amounts with the help of airtime. That is something that's very directly relevant to e-commerce. And we're helping companies like Kuri that are already successful somewhere to go to other places. As Sarah, you mentioned, there are 130 partners that EIT Digital has. Many of them are telcos, like British Telecom or Deutsche Telekom or Telecom Italia or Hungarian Telecom called Magyar Telekom. So we are in the position to take these companies to these telcos and bring them business. That's basically what we're about.
So impressive. Do you charge for any of the services, or do you get a cut from the profit?
Yes, exactly. So we used to be a public service where it was totally free, but we soon realized that if something is free, then it's valued less. And also we were pressed less to be a professional agency when it was free. You know, if I give something to you free, you cannot complain. So for both sides, it works much better that if it's a paying service, and that's exactly what it has become. So we have a sort of an entry fee, a retainer that we charge our scale-up companies, and then we get a little cut of the deals that we bring. Of course, only the deals that we bring.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I'd like to ask the question, starting with you and then coming this way, to carry on the theme of education and training. For we know that knowledge gaps are persistent regarding how SMEs can make the best use and benefit from commerce technologies. In your opinion, what is the most important role for the private and public sectors regarding education, training, and awareness of e-commerce opportunities and the initiatives that you're talking about for SMEs? And this is for the entire panel.
Yeah, so I'm of the opinion that the best entrepreneurs usually find their way to whatever they need. So education can do the best if it empowers people with the skills that are most needed for their success. So it's more about the skills than the knowledge. Again, in the case of EIT Digital, what we make a point of that people who are engineers get to try themselves as business people as early as possible. So most of the projects the students are working on are as much entrepreneurial as engineering. We have a master's program, a doctoral program, and the professional school, which is for adult education. And we're trying to bring together these two sides, sort of the academic side with the entrepreneurial business side. And among the 130 partners that you mentioned, close to maybe 40% of them are actually universities all around Europe. So that's what we would like to contribute to this.
Thank you.
We are actually having one very interesting pilot in India, and I think we all know that technical skills and business knowledge are the key challenges in establishing and running online business. So we are running a pilot project in India together with Indian Institute of Technology and their initiative, the Women Entrepreneurship and Empowerment Foundation. And together we are focusing on business education and training Indian businesswomen and entrepreneurs, and helping them to scale in India and to e-residency, of course, globally. So, yes, we are having practical solutions that we are practicing and, of course, improving through different pilots with private and public sector.
Brilliant. Thank you.
For my business, I would say continuing education. Having access to continuing knowledge, training our employees as well as our micro producers that we utilize on best practices for mass production. Also providing constant continuing education for our employees, our support staff, the team that we depend on in our office. Shopify has a great project right now that I'm participating in called Shopify Workroom. It's to help us prepare for the holiday season. and Cyber Monday. And I think that's part of the educational process for me as an entrepreneur, to have that access to programs like that from Shopify to help me, just like Apple University, for example. Those are things that can help entrepreneurs. I'm a participant in the ITC She Trades initiative, and as an entrepreneur, that was my continuing education. When I needed access to information, or there were things that I was not aware of, and my skill set did not have access to that information, I was able to get the information and the education through programs, through the ITC and She Trades, the webinars and things like that. So I think continuing education is always important in any organization from the top down.
A relentless quest for more
Absolutely.
From the CEO.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So maybe to bring this angle to the question. So for us, for those people who are working in online, in digital, in e-commerce, a lot of things looks over the years looks very simple. At the same time, when I look at the statistics, like take Hungary for example, where we are now, we have more than 50,000 businesses, small and medium businesses in retail. Out of them, just or already a few thousands are trading on eBay. So good that it's already a few thousand, pity that it's not yet all 50,000. When I started to look into that, first, like, sometimes there is no motivation, yeah? But when you ask people in business, like, do you want to earn more money? Like, for 99% of them, it's a good motivation, yeah? So probably motivation exists. Then the question says, like, what's the barrier? Like, why not everybody goes into online? Why not everybody goes into the global trade? The simple formula which I found over the years is that the price of entry is usually not the money itself, it's a complexity. And my role and the role of my team is to eliminate complexity as much as possible. So that basically to the state that there should be no education and people already could be able to trade, yeah? No education and you can trade in global trade. The way how we do that, we basically developing our own tools for exporters. We know like what are the main key points. We know key points about logistics. We know key points about payments and a few other things. Language is a big problem usually when you go to global trade, despite the fact that we are speaking all in English here, yeah. And so we're developing tools which simplify all those pain points. It's one thing. The second thing, we are working closely with the partners, and I mean, like we just started this, starting this year, but we are going very fast and bringing more and more partners who will help those people who don't understand how to integrate into global trade. They will help them to integrate. Yeah, I think you have like you know the global trade, but you also shared with me like one good example with the Mall of Africa. Potentially you can talk about that, yeah. And there's a partner in Africa, yeah, but there are a few of them in, like, there is a partner in Greece which we are talking about for the multiple countries. There are companies in Russia, and which covering like Ukraine also, and Russia, Ukraine, and some others, yeah. So, but the whole point is that there is a big role, in my view, of regulators and the government sector, which is working closely with the small and medium business to help them educate and help them open these opportunities, yeah. Because sometimes, like, small and medium business exist on their own, opportunities exist on their own. There should be something in the middle which connect both.
Ilya, that's a nice segue to the next question in terms of how we can leverage innovative institutional partnerships, such as what eBay is doing with cities. Could you elaborate on that, please?
Yes, definitely. So I will be, maybe we'll start with one of the examples, and then we'll go to the cities. So, for example, in Russia, in Moscow, and this institution exists in many countries. Yeah, there is a government institution which is called Russian Export Center, whose role is actually bringing more retail exporters into online and integrate them into global retail. So what we did all together among three of us, like we took us, eBay, we took them, and we took Russian large online retailer and marketplace, and we signed a deal where basically this marketplace is integrating local companies into eBay because they trust maybe a local marketplace better. It's in Russian, like it's much easier. Yeah, and they made all the specific to eBay, so integrating the merchants into the global commerce. And Russian Export Center is actually bringing the translations, bringing some expertise about the global trade, and helping those SMBs with some logistics and sometimes even donation for the logistics. Yeah, so that's one of the example. Another example is Mönchengladbach is as I mentioned, like the small city somewhere in Western Germany with like less than 300,000 inhabitants. You can imagine like what is access to client database those small businesses has. Yeah, so in a nutshell, we did a simple thing. Yeah, we did triangle, and maybe like the triangle is one thing to take out from this room today, from me at least. Yeah, the triangle was eBay as a provider of global demand. The second piece was small and medium businesses themselves, and the third piece was local authorities in the city. So we sit all three together at one table and said, okay, let's launch a pilot when we go into the local businesses and we list them in eBay. Yeah, we translate the listings into English and if necessary into different other languages. And so we make them nice listings, photos, explain them how to trade on eBay and how to serve the customers around the whole globe. So the result, the early result was that around 80, 79 to be exact, yeah, 79 businesses in this small city started to participate. In the first year, they earned like few $1 million, roughly like close to 90 to 100,000 euro per business. If you ask me, like in a sense of a global trade, few million euro, is it like big or small? Probably it's nothing, yeah, like in a global trade. But for the business and for the small city which is located in like somewhere, yeah, and like remoted from everybody else with a very limited customer base, it's something meaningful, yeah. So it's something which generates their sales. So that's the great example which I want to see more and more across the globe.
Wonderful. Chet, we were talking this afternoon about your participation in eBay's mall.
Yes. eBay is launching Mall of Africa, which is going to transform, I think, a lot of SMEs that are based in Africa. eBay Mall of Africa will allow myself and other entrepreneurs on the continent of Africa to ship directly from, I'm based in Ghana, so how this is going to transform my business is one of the most difficult things that we encounter is logistics, is getting our product, as I said earlier, from our warehouse, from us to the consumer. What eBay Mall of Africa has done is they have integrated the shipping into the entire process for us. So instead of us shipping it to a warehouse in New York, we can ship directly to our customer. If a customer places an online order on eBay's Mall of Africa, on our portal, on their site, we can then take that item to a DHL distributor in Ghana, and that item will be shipped directly from Ghana to the consumer. And on the front end, the consumer only sees that the item is shipping from eBay Mall of Africa. This is transformational for a business based in Africa, because one of the biggest problems that we face is getting our product from Ghana to the consumer in another country, primarily the United States, the EU. So having that integration of DHL and the shipping with Mall of Africa, it just transforms our business. So we're really excited about that.
Ilya, how many malls do you have now?
You mean like integration with partners like this?
Countries and continents, Mall of Africa and where else?
So basically there are few of them in different countries. Like Mall of Africa is probably like the largest one in Africa. We are discussing with few other partners, but also like to build on that, the logistic, when it comes to global trade, logistic is usually like the pain point number one. And it's again like a combination of logistic plus regulatory. Yeah, like how to make the custom clearance, will I have the VAT refund or not, like how it will be then returned if something goes wrong, yeah, like who will insure my parcel if something, like if it lost somewhere, and so on. So we started to work very closely to many partners on logistics side, be it DPD, DHL, UPS, and somewhere national posts, to integrate them into our toolbox on eBay.
Because it's decidedly in eBay's best interest to get those products shipped on time.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's question, like how can I ship like from Budapest to Budapest and forget about everything else? It's not like it's not the rare question. Yeah, it's what sellers asking in each particular market.
Terrific, thank you. Barnabas, this question is for you in terms of how EIT Digital partners with Silicon Valley and what is the role for local universities? So kind of two questions.
Yeah. So the triangle in our case is universities, large companies, and scale-up companies. And most of the useful partnerships are such that they leverage at least two of these, maybe more. So in the case of our education program, if we're successful in bringing to the market students who are proficient both in business and in their own domain, so academically, then the large companies can look at them as sort of a pool for recruitment, obviously. In the case of small versus large companies, we often do matchmaking, that we try to understand what sort of needs the large companies have, and try to bring the best possible scale-ups as potential partners. And in the same kind of deal towards the scale-ups, we can say that we really understand who are the people within the corporates who you should be talking to, what are the kind of questions that those guys will be asking you, and what exactly their needs are. So here, our intermediary services seem to be of value quite often. In terms of the Silicon Valley Hub, so we're dealing with early stage companies, and in the startup world, the Silicon Valley is really the gate towards the US market more often than not. So we are primarily focusing on Europe, but we realized it a few years ago that it's very important to be present in the US, maybe not as the immediate first step. So it happens more typically that companies first try to conquer European markets and then they get ready for the US market. But sometimes that's not the right order. There are kinds of companies which first would like to go to the US and then maybe come back to Europe. So we would like to be able to help them in that as well.
Thank you very much. So Barnabas and Victoria, this question is for you. You both represent very innovative, highly successful initiatives and programs. How do we scale this nationally and regionally and globally? How do you take these highly successful programs and make them universal?
Yeah, so in our case, it is really a European program at this point. Not even a European program, it's an EU-based program. So in my own work, I hit a limit or a wall when I'm dealing with companies outside of the EU. And it is sometimes, from my perspective, problematic. So I meet companies from Russia or meet companies even from like Norway, and I can't, or today I met a company, a US company that's very strong in Asia as well, and it's trying to relocate to Budapest. I'm at the Budapest node of EIT Digital, and I wish I could help that company because they really could use the kind of services that EIT Digital provides. But since we have this mandate, an EU mandate, I cannot really deal with them. And as a Hungarian person working for the local ecosystem, I would really have cherished the opportunity to try to convince this company to come to Budapest rather than elsewhere. But that is a very obvious limit. So in this sense, I really hope that our model can be expanded. But at this point, we would like to be focused, and we would like to deal first with companies from the EU, and our strength and our network is strongest in the EU. But actually, our Silicon Valley Hub is already a step in the right direction of how to expand this. Not much else I can say at this point.
I think it's crucial to take a holistic approach and partner with organizations across many sectors. And the most important thing is how to find solutions and with your partners. And for example, we had a very big problem that we needed to solve, and it was banking and payment service for people who are becoming e-residents, and for that we have partnered up with many fintech companies. For example, there's one very good fintech company called Holvi, who provides business banking solutions for e-resident companies. So they found a solution how to scale their businesses, and thanks to the banking services, our e-residents can scale their businesses. So it's like win-win solution. And thanks to the secure ID, and people today have spoke about security issues and identity issues, thanks to the e-residency program, it can be solved. Because I think the most important thing for entrepreneurs, for different platforms, is to know who is the person behind the computer, who is actually ordering your services or paying with the card. So thanks to the secure solutions that we are providing, this challenge can be overcome.
Victoria, there's still a bit of a Wild West mentality when it comes to electronic marketplaces, right? And to the determined victor goes the spoils is kind of the attitude that many are taking with e-commerce. Could you speak to what happened, you were sharing this last night, when the president of your country said, we are going to do this? What was the impetus?
It was yeah, it was so long time ago, and it wasn't a president; it was prime minister then, and decision behind that was Estonia was a very poor country, and 17 years ago we had to take a future path, to take a big step, what to do with our future. And I'm glad that public sector actually heard private sector and invested its money into technology and IT. And for today, I can say that in Estonia, children from the first grade are actually learning how to code and how to program. So thanks to the investment, I guess that public sector did that time, we reached that benefit that we are having now.
Very inspiring. Thank you. This is a question regarding competitiveness in e-commerce for anyone on the panel. We have Amazon, Alibaba, DHgate, and eBay, massive global e-commerce platforms. Leaders nationally or regionally are AliExpress, Souk and Wadi in the Middle East, Flipkart in India, Grasshoppers and Kapruka, in Sri Lanka, Jumia and Souk in Africa, and Mercado Libre in Latin America. What do you all feel is the best way that SMEs can gain access to these online supply chains and e-commerce platforms?
I feel I should start maybe. Yeah, basically the e-commerce is developing fast, and it's consolidating. Yeah, so the same Zouk in Middle East and Africa, it now belongs to Amazon. Yeah, so Flipkart is actually having a strategic partnership with eBay. So there are different type of alliances across the globe. The important thing is that in the end of the day, each of them represents some like single double digits of the global e-commerce. Yeah, and coming back to like Dusty Kotler book about marketing and management, the small and medium business should realize like how like entering the global e-commerce, global market, what they're gonna compete for. Yeah, like what is their product, like why they will be competitive. What eBay can provide, what like same as like Amazon, Alibaba, etc., with the different models, yeah, is that we give you global demand. Okay, like there is like 170 million on buyers on eBay, something on Amazon, something somebody somewhere else. We give you global demand, we give you the platform to trade. You entering this platform, why you're going to be successful? Like, is it unique inventory? Is it some price range which is better? Can you produce something much more efficient than somebody else? It's like how you're going to compete with like very much effective and low marginal Chinese goods, yeah, and so on and so on. So I think this is the first question to answer. And then basically answering this question, what I would do if I would be the small and medium business, I would decide to which marketplace to go. And like even being eBay, this is absolutely fine to go, like I think this is absolutely fine to go to multiple marketplaces if your business model allows you to do. Like for example, we chat about, and if I talk about competitors, yeah, but we chat about Etsy. And Etsy is very much focused on designer thing, like higher marginal type of things. Yeah, if you like this type of inventory, you can go to Etsy as well. You can try yourself on different platforms. What is good for eBay is that eBay is providing zero cost of entry for small and medium business. Usually, like all those successful stories which I showed, the way they started is I will give you the like one real actual example. I met with the sellers in Latvia, yeah, and Latvia also like not a huge market, frankly speaking, like internally. And I chatted with a couple of guys there. They said like, you know, we were doing nothing, yeah, like basically like we didn't have job, we doing nothing. We then some of us bought something on eBay, then we start like sold something on eBay. We saw it worked. And now we actually grew like a moderate business with like 20 to 40 employees, 100% dependent on eBay. What they do is very funny, is they're buying cars in containers from US, going to Latvia, then dismantle them, then clean them, and then sell in the parts to Germany. Yeah, that's an example of how the global trade is real global and how it feeds a lot of families. Yeah,
that's a fantastic example. They tried it out, it worked, and now they've scaled up to 20 to 40 employees, right? That's
yeah,
wonderful.
absolutely, and they're earning like significant amount of money. So again, like answering your question, my advice would be like understand what you're selling, like on the global level, yeah, like what is your product, and then consider yourself different marketplaces. So eBay is a good thing, is like zero cost of entry. Like you buy, you like sell one thing, you see it works, you can scale, and yeah, and eBay is not competing with its own sellers. So because we don't have our own inventory,
zero cost of entry. Right, Jadzia? Basically, how can we get SMEs onto these marketplaces?
Providing access to the information about getting on those marketplaces. I think as a small business, one of the things that I hear often from other small business owners, particularly in developing countries like Ghana, is they're not aware of these platforms. They're not aware of Shopify. They're not aware of ShipBob as a smaller distribution channel for an SME. They're not aware of Shopify's hub that they have during the holidays in New York to take advantage of learning how to implement and utilize their platform effectively during Cyber Monday. I think it's critical that these entities get the information into the hands of the SMEs, to partner also with local governmental agencies and to provide workshops. And back to what we spoke about earlier, the additional continuing education. I think that is a way that we can actually get that information and those partnerships with the SMEs that need them. I have a lot of my colleagues who are small business owners who don't know about Square Capital or PayPal Capital as a means of accessing capital for your business. If you're using PayPal, or if you're not using PayPal or you're not using Square, it's one reason why you should. Capital is really difficult to access as a small business, so Square and PayPal offering Square Capital and a means to access additional capital for a small business is really crucial. But there are a lot of small business owners who are not aware of these initiatives. So I think partnering with the local agencies and the ministries of trade and the export boards and things like that can be a means to get that information out there. In Ghana, we have the West African Trade Hub, which is a really great tool to get access to information about these initiatives. So I think that these corporations and these companies and these IT companies should partner more locally with agencies to get SMEs onto their platforms, and I think that's reaching out to the community basically, and the local community, local governmental bodies to provide access to that information.
I have learned so much from you in just the few short conversations that we've had, so I'd like to also add that case studies are so important.
Absolutely.
Where those who have been there and done it and can just say, here's how I did it, here's how I did it, because there isn't one particular way to do it.
And that's very true. You can have a blueprint of something, but unless you have that case study, as you said, and someone who has gone through that process to kind of give you a guide of this is what you do and this is the next step and these are some of the challenges that you might face, it helps make that path smoother for SMEs.
Thank you.
For EU companies, the access to those marketplaces is very easy. And thanks to e-residency, for those SMEs which are outside of EU, the easiest access to those platforms are EU company that is provided by Estonian government. And it's not only the easy access to those marketplaces, it's access to payment solutions, it's access to banking solutions that actually give that competitiveness to those SMEs.
I will be very brief because I agree with the aforesaid. So when I advise early stage companies, early stage startups, I always tell them to go to the main platforms where startups should be present at, like AngelList and Crunchbase and F6S and so on, because that's how you get onto the map. Pretty much the same thing. If you're in e-commerce, there's no reason not to go to eBay and Amazon and Etsy and wherever you have to be. It's just your time and energy. Most of the time it costs nothing. Why not do it? And then you will be able to experiment which one works best for you.
I'm so sorry, I don't know how we're doing on time. Do we have time to ask audience questions? Okay, a couple of questions from the audience. It's been a long day. Any questions? Okay, thank you. The last two questions will be for anyone on the panel. The first is about the role of these massive global technology firms, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, et cetera, the role that they can play in the global economy. The example that I wanted to give is Grow with Google. It's a new initiative to help with skills training. They provide $1 billion in Google AdWords grants. They're donating 1 million hours for Google employees to volunteer to nonprofits and social enterprises to use Google's tools for market research, learning through YouTube, and growing through Google AdWords. And Google says the internet is a powerful equalizer, capable of propelling new ideas and people forward. Indeed. What role do the large tech firms play in ensuring that SMEs everywhere have opportunities to compete in online marketplaces? Anyone? Victoria?
I think they have a very huge and privileged opportunity to offer support to SMEs in adopting technologies and better reaching to the global market. And of course, education. And I really like the Google's mission to make sure that information serves everyone. So I really hope that they fulfill their mission.
Thank you. Chetsia?
And what I can add to that is what we discussed earlier, is that education partnering with access to information. For example, we utilize Instagram. For a lot of purposes, we utilize their analytics. We utilize their platform to do direct sales through their platform. This is something that we learned on our own through trial and error. It would have been more productive if they offered maybe an online class or an online course just to show SMEs how to utilize those tools, how to utilize Google as an in-app way to sell your product. We figured that out on our own. So these are wonderful technological advances that these companies are coming up with, but I think they need to figure out how they can get the information on how to utilize these programs to the SMEs. Facebook has an in-app purchasing platform now. Instagram, I find, is been transformational for our business because that click just on a sponsored post immediately resonates into a sale in one form or another. Just clicking that like button is another way to gain market research. Outside of traditional market research, when you post something as an SME on social media and you know how to read the analytical part of that post to kind of look at how this post is affecting your customer, how many customers are viewing that is transformational for your business. So I think just teaching SMEs how to utilize their technological platforms to help grow your business, I think is one way that these firms can actually help.
It was fascinating how you were saying that you really obsess about the analytical tools on Instagram, for example. When you post a fashion-forward kind of design and you're getting 11,000 likes, and you're watching their comments and seeing photos of customers wearing your clothes, I mean, what instant response you can get. Yeah,
it's a new version of market research is what I equate it to. That like button and that follow button, when someone clicks a follow, they can, you automatically have a way to communicate with that customer because they are a follower of your social media page. So I think SMEs utilizing and learning how to utilize these platforms and these tech companies teaching SMEs how to make it work for them is really, really critical.
Thank you.
Yeah, so maybe to be very pragmatic answering this question, like I'm doing this for the reason. So one of the things which I am very much believe in is, in the end of the day, what we need to do is to generate more sales for SMBs, so they can do what they can do best, and we generate them much more demand for their products. So the way where the whole world is going right now, and eBay is also pioneering this direction, is what is called distributed commerce. So which means that if you list on eBay, you as a seller list once. First, we as eBay, doing this all the backend work for you, in terms of translation, logistics, etc. Multiple listing on different countries and giving you provide you to the global trade. But also we are reaching the customer in that front end, what is called in that experience where a customer want to have it. Be it Facebook, be it Instagram, be it I don't know, World of Tanks game. Or any other experience where there are a lot of customers. Because e-commerce, in the end of the day, is very simple. It's traffic multiplied by conversion resulted in sales. That's it. Multiplied average order value, it gives you the total revenue. So that's it. That's e-commerce. So our goal is actually to build a very strong distributed commerce. So when seller get access on eBay, and then we place the right inventory for the right buyers from the right sellers into the very much different front ends and provide more sales to SMBs.
Yeah, so from the perspective of startups and scale-ups, I think it's a largely positive role that bigger players can play. Google or eBay are very good examples because they sort of facilitate business for smaller players most of the time. And they also act as hubs for either partnerships or potential acquisition deals. So I find that both in terms of the market and in terms of the underlying ecosystem, it's very important to have successful large companies. That's why Finland was so happy with Nokia as long as Nokia was successful. And the only sort of criticism that you hear about the Israeli ecosystem from inside Israel is that, oh, we wish we had like a big player, which we don't have, or if we have them, they are elsewhere. And also as platforms, as eBay serves as a platform, and we heard very clear examples and use cases now, but also if you look at like IBM Watson or a lot of other companies and Google TensorFlow doing things that smaller players couldn't do by themselves but can avail themselves of. That's very positive. And I could list another few things if we had more time, what I think is very positive about the role of large corporates. On the negative side, when corporates sort of strangle or press out smaller players, and sometimes they are very efficient at that as well, that's always less welcome development. Facebook was famous for a while about this, that whenever they saw someone coming up, then they either bought the company or strangled it in some other ways. I think they are getting a little better in this because it's not good PR and it's not good for your business. But I think you can see some sort of some important differences between corporates as to how they deal with this. And also governments these days try to have a fresh look at what competitiveness and competition means in our present age. So what does it mean if you have all the data and you can say that your competition is just one click away, but since you have all the data, it's not so easy to build up a competition.
I think you brought up a huge issue about competitiveness vis-a-vis the hegemony that these large firms are exerting with their monopolies, right? And I don't think we've even scratched the surface of governments really understanding the implications of how large these firms have gotten. But perhaps we can discuss this next year. In the interest of time, I would like to ask each of you what is the one key message that you would like to give today to policymakers in the room or to people from ITC who are in the room today. And let's start with you.
Okay, very good question. Yeah, so I think I will summarize the takeout. Yeah, the one thing which I want you to leave with this room is the triangle. Yeah, just think of the triangle, which is government, small, medium business, and marketplaces. And to put this in a more concrete way, there are two things, like three things basically. Yeah, the one I showed you, the export, is the key element for developing the retail potential of small and medium business in the country, especially if this is a country with a smaller amount of population. The second thing is simplify, simplify, simplify. Yeah, there are a lot of things which we can do, which like government officials can do on their own, or if needed, we are very eager and happy to help with our expertise. How to simplify all the export procedures, like logistic procedures, and so on. So business is complicated for small and medium business. Yeah. So the second thing is simplify, and the third thing, which unfortunately I see as a challenge in like working with different government officials in many countries, is know your base. Yeah. So when we speak about like knowing like driving the export business and driving the SMB, I think this is like role of government officials to know who is actually SMBs that can export in the country, and we are here to help with the demand side, and and we're investing a lot to provide all the demand and the tools and the traffic to the sellers, but we also need there's access to the sellers who is eager and happy to sell. Yeah, so triangle, export is big, simplify, and know your base. That's I think it.
Great.
I would say for governmental bodies, I would say the key word would be information. Have information for SMEs on how to utilize initiatives. For example, we utilize AGOA to export into the United States duty-free. When the AGOA treaty, the implementation and the procedures regarding how to utilize the treaty changed recently, just accessing the information as an SME who currently utilized AGOA became extremely difficult. We actually wound up paying duty on shipments for 3 months just because we could not access the information on how to utilize the treaty under the current administration and under the new policies and procedures that were implemented. So we went from utilizing something that was very beneficial to our business. When the regulations around that treaty changed, there was no access to the information to tell us what the new procedures were. So on a governmental level, I think it's really critical that the governmental bodies really have the information on the local levels to disperse to the SMEs on how to utilize initiatives that benefit them. In terms of the ITC, I think they should continue and expand programs like SheTrades. SheTrades has been transformational for our business. The SheTrades initiative put us in front of buyers at trade shows, which we had no wholesale a B2B business until we participated in the SheTrades initiative at a trade show. And we went from 0 wholesale customers to now it's 35% of our business, growing into about 50% of our business soon, which was transformational. And the webinars on how to do logistics, how to take advantage of Shopify or AGOA treaty or EPA, those are critical because the information is not always out there. For us, we were utilizing AGOA and we were hoping to utilize EPA. We searched online, we went through every online portal that should have had the information, we just could not get it. So it's really important to have initiatives that work, and the SheTrades initiative is an initiative that actually works. It puts us into, right now we're doing a webinar with a law firm on contracts and you know, copywriting internationally. And these are things that we are now having to experience as our business grows. We're no longer just based in Ghana and based in the US, but we're shipping to other countries. We're having to protect ourselves through copyrights in other countries. And these are things that we are not familiar with. So having an initiative like SheTrades partner with us and say, hey, this is where you go for this. And here's this person, and you can communicate with this person, and you can talk to this law firm and they'll give you advice on this. It really is important because you know, you want to grow as an SME, but once you start growing, you need that support. And I think that having initiatives through ITC, through SheTrades, through local governments that help support and continue that mentoring that SMEs really, really need to grow and continue to grow is really, really important.
I think that innovative solutions to solve different problems and issues requires a holistic approach. So it means that flexibility and willingness to find and to work with different partners in private and public sector is crucial.
My piece of advice to governments would be that they should leave alone the top tiers of the stack of the economy and not try to pick winners, even when it looks like a good idea, and work on long-term factors such as education, infrastructure, internet access, and so on. And that's something that most governments find it very hard to do because it's very easy to think that they can help 1 or 2 companies and that will be good for everyone. And the other thing is that maybe it's a very specifically Hungarian thing, but I have heard too much of sort of resistance to what is sometimes referred to as brain drain. I wouldn't worry about it as much as governments tend to worry about it, including the Hungarian government. I think it's very good when there's a circulation of brains, What you have to make sure that the brains, the talent that leaves your country will want to come back at some point, and that you open towards talent that's not of your kind, and you welcome them to come here for a while or forever. I think the most successful countries are those which have a circulation of brains rather than those who have measures against people leaving.
Wonderful. There is much to be done, and I think that we would all agree that it can be done. The phrase, if there's a willingness, there is a way. And I believe that we can, find the way together. So I want to thank every one of you on the panel. Thank you to ITC for putting together this really fascinating, interesting panel. And thank you all for being with us at the very end of the day. Thank you all.
We would like to thank our last panel as well. And ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's sessions. We do hope to see you at our gala dinner tonight, where we will have a special guest performance by world-renowned pianist Mr. Balázs Havasi. Without any bias, believe me, it will be an incredible show, so please don't miss out on it.
Again, we would like to remind you that shuttle buses to the venue of the gala dinner leave at 6:45 from the outside of the Congress Center's main entrance upstairs. The last bus leaves at 7:15. Please also don't forget to bring your invitation with you, which must be presented electronically or on paper when you enter the venue.
Tomorrow morning, we meet back here at 9 a.m. with our first plenary session. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.